Okay, students, there have been a lot of questions you have asked from us. So some have been answered, some will be answered by me, and the next teacher which will be coming will be answering those questions. The questions are in the queue. So first of all, let's discuss some of the topics which are coming in the which are which might come in the examinations which are coming in this year. So compulsory question is from section 2. Okay, I would like to give you a thing that why am I saying that it will be from section 2. So it's a calculative guess though. Most of the students, they have asked me the question that, sir, it can be from section 3. Why are you assessing that it's from section 2? So for last 15 years, we have seen that whatever has come in October, November, the same section would not be repeated in the next year in May, June. So from my perspective, it's going to be section 2, and that too from 1927 to 1939. So the topics which are to be covered in this timeline would be Salmon Commission, Delhi Muslim Proposals, Nehru Report, Jinnah's 14 points, RTCs, Government of India Act 1935, and elections, and then Congress rule. So these are the topics you are going to cover from section 2. These are most important ones. So give a go ahead for this, these timelines, and then go with the other questions as well. Then the optional questions, question number 2, that is from section 1, and that too is from War of Independence, Succeed and Mughal Decline. And then the question number 3, that is from section 2 again, and 1940s. So section 2 is very important from 1927 till 1947. It's very important one. Then question number 3 is from, 4 is from again, section 3, that is Zia, initial problems, Ayub and Musharraf. Musharraf ka pura topic nahi hai. This only one question which comes in the paper, that why did Musharraf come to the power, or what was the plain conspiracy case, or what were the reasons of the fall of Nawaz Sharif in his second tenure. Then there is question number 5, which is from section 3 again, constitutions in Pakistan and Nawaz Sharif, USSR and India relations are very important in this one. So let me tell you one thing. This was these are not, this is a calculative guess. This can be 60% right, 70% right. A lot of questions have been coming to me since I've made this guess, and some I've been sharing this with the students of my school and other students. So they're asking me about how accurate is this. So nobody can tell how accurate is this guess. This paper has been prepared by the CI. We do not know about that. They do not discuss that paper with us. So it's a calculative guess, a gut feeling of the teacher that what might come in the examination or what might not. So this is going to be for history. For geography, the question number 1 is from agriculture, development and water. So why have I selected both of these topics in one question is that the trend for such questions is they always give the questions from the related topics. For example, in the previous year, 2024, October, November, they have given the question from agriculture development plus the barrages. So a barrage wala jo topic hai, that comes from water or the dams or whatever the irrigation system we have discussed this in the chapter 3, that was water. So agriculture development and water is going to be your first question. Question number 2 is from climate and topography. They have a knack of combining both of these topics in whatever the question they're giving to you. Question number 3 is from industrial development and trade. 4 is from forests, and the 5 is always from population. 4 or 5. This is from population, and 2 are most important topics. One is the population density, and another one is DTM, जो कि आपका एक ग्राफ वाला क्वेश्चन होता है, वो आपने इसमें करना होता है. So employment or unemployment, lot of questions were coming to me that why haven't you choose employment or unemployment, because employment have already come in the previous paper, so it's not that important. So this is going to be my guess for 2025 May, June. It's just a calculative guess. So now we are coming to, most of the questions have been answered with Ms. Alia. So I think that whatever was not addressed, let me tell you that. So There are questions which they always check the questions with respect to the levels. First of all, you must know what are the assessment objectives for you. And let me tell you one thing, that one assessment objective that is of the facts that is very, very important for you with respect to P1 or P2. For P1, that assessment objective is 64% important. So if you're not writing the facts, if you're not describing a fact in a 4-mark question, whether that is a 7-mark question, 10-mark question, or a 14-mark question, and you're just writing the stories, that will not do. Only providing the explanation will not do. English is not your mother language. If you're making mistakes with respect to spellings, or if there are grammatical mistakes, but if you are explaining whatever is there, it would not deduct any mark. The mark will be deducted if you are not going to give the proper facts or if you are delivering the wrong facts. So assessment objective 1 for P1 is 64%, and you must have a clear proof of whatever you're writing. And give one thing I want to give you over here is, whatever you're writing, whether that's history or geography, if you're not providing evidence, if you're just writing a point and not giving the reasons that the same Miss Alia has told you, if you are not giving the cause and effect of a particular point, this point will not be considered as a developed point. So you have to make a developed point, and the formula for developing a point is to give a cause and an effect. If you are not providing that, you're not going to get marks. So one thing very clear for you is, whatever you write, you have to give an evidence to that point as well. So the other thing is that there are 2 types of the questions: point marking and level marking. So it's very simple. Point marking ke andar you have to provide a point. You have to just provide a fact. And you, in a 4-mark question, while providing a fact, you have to describe that point as well. In a 7-mark question, in 10-mark question, 5-mark question, 14-mark question, all of these questions are level marking. And your answers would be checked in levels. For 7-mark question, if you're writing just one point, you're elaborating the reasons, you're developing the point. 1 point developed means that you reach to level 2 and you'll get 5 out of 7. Second point explained, third point explained, you would go to level 3, and level 3 is the maximum level you can achieve in the 7-mark question. Same goes with the 10 marker and the 14 markers. There are 5 levels to achieve in a 10 or a 14 marker. Level 3 you'll be achieving if you are going to address the point which has been indicative in the question statement. There are 80 to 90% students which commit this mistake, that they do not answer the question. They do not answer the question in a way it's been indicative in the question. So first point you are going to explain is whatever is there in the question. यहाँ पर एक सवाल ये भी बच्चे करते हैं कि सर अगर हमें वो सवाल नहीं आता तो can we attempt the question from another angle? Can we start from the counter arguments? No, you cannot. If you are not starting with whatever is being asked in the question, you will not reach to level 3. And there are no jumps in history paper. So you have to reach to level 3 to get to level 4. And you have to reach to level 4 to get to level 5. So it's very simple. So if you're not answering the question in a way which should be answered like that. So level 3 is first, which is the indicative statement, then provide 3 counter arguments, and then come to the conclusion, both for a 10-mark question and a 14-mark question. For geography paper, I'm explaining in a very in a quick manner, because most of these things have already been explained with Alia. So whatever was not addressed or little addressed, so I'm addressing that only. For a geography question of a 6 mark, there are 2 types. One is of extent based, another one is for the view based. In an extent based question, the most easiest thing you can do is that you have to answer that in 2 parts. The first part is already given in the question, in which you have to describe the possibilities of whatever is been asked. सबसे पहले जो भी सवाल किया, for example, the question is, to what extent the floods can be managed in Pakistan? So you have to write the possibilities in which the floods can be managed in Pakistan. And then you have to provide the hindrances, the problems the government would face in addressing that issue. This is the only question. You write 3 possibilities, 3 problems, and an example that would give you all 6 points, but the points have to be developed ones. You have to write the cause and effect for that. The second 6-mark question can be of view-based, in which 2 views are given to you, view A and view B. View A, for example, that was the view in which you were agreeing. So the point you're agreeing, you have to write the 2 reasons as why are you agreeing with this point. You have to write 2 reasons, the positives, that why are you agreeing with this point. However, you have to provide 1 negative of that as well. Then you are going to write a point B as well. In point B, you have to write 2 negatives as to why are you not agreeing with this point. So 2 reasons as to why you are not agreeing with this point. However, you have to write 1 positive of that as well and with an example. So इस तरीके से आपने इसको attempt करना है. For time management, for history paper, attempt question number 1 first. You would have 25 to 30 minutes for attempting question number 1. That is the compulsory question. All the other optional questions, my suggestion for you is always attempt the 14 markers first, because you might not have ample time to attempt such questions in the last, and you would be missing so many different points. So attempt 14 markers, for which you would have 17 to 18 or 19 minutes. Make an outline if you can forget that thing. Make an outline in the rough paper and then answer the questions sequentially. And always comprehend the question in a manner which is very important for you. In order to answer a question, if you would not understand that question, it would be very difficult for you to write that answer. So the first thing you have to do is to comprehend the question. अगर आपको सवाल की समझ नहीं आएगी तो आप जवाब नहीं दे सकते. So comprehend the questions first and then answer it. Thank you.
Someone in the audience asks, how to distinguish which statement is positive or negative in geography 6 marks?
Well, I have just told you that in the geography 6-mark question, you need to write 2 positive of the point you're agreeing and 1 negative. And 2 negatives of the point you disagreeing and 1 positive with an example. The reason behind that is that you have to cover all the angles in geography questions. If you're not answering all the angles, you are missing points. And that's what not asked in the examination.
Sir, to which political leaders are important?
Time frame.
Sir, no time frame.
Which political leaders this is a very relative question. So what is the time frame of the political leaders you are asking? So if that is from 1947 till 1958, so that is Liaquat Ali Khan, Khaja Nazmuddin, Bogra, Sikandar Mirza. These are very important ones because they had a larger time frames of their governance.
Bashir Ahmed asks, sir, vlogging pe tips de de.
After the workshop.
Sir, Ms. Farwa Fatma asks, how to write an evaluation in a 14-mark question?
Well, for an evaluation, you know that this is a level 5. For a level 5 in a 14-mark question, it reserves 2 marks. And this is the D part, this is the C part of the optional question. For a 10-mark, which is the D part of the compulsory question, it reserves 1 mark. For every judgment you are producing, you have to provide an argument for that as well. If you are not providing an argument with the conclusion, it will not do. After 2021, the system has now changed. Previously, you could have only given a conclusion that, for example, Shah Waliullah was the most important reformer. So ये आपका एक conclusion बन सकता था. But after 2021 now, you have to provide an argument that why are you concluding on this point. So a conclusion with an argument would give you 2 marks in an optional question and 1 mark in the compulsory question.
Mr. Rana Ibrahim asks, to what extent was Pakistan successful in implementing the constitution?
Well, for a constitution-based question, you always have to start from the independence of Pakistan from 1949 and you would go till 1973. So objective resolution is the first thing you have done. Then there was a constitutional crisis in 1950. There was a constitutional crisis in 1954. Pakistan had made its first constitution in 1956. Then the constitution of 1962, and then of 1973. So you'll be writing all within the time frame from 1947 till 1973.
Someone in the audience asks, regarding the 6-mark question in geography, do we have to mention the pros of both or cons of both?
Yes, of course, that I've just told you, that you have to write the 2 pros of whatever you are agreeing and 1 con, and then you are writing, you have the point you're disagreeing, you have to write 2 cons and 1 pro, and with an example. If you're not understanding the example, if you do not know the example of both the points, at least write 1 example from each point, or 1 point you're agreeing. Is that it?
Is there any way to achieve the 14th mark in a 14-mark question?
Of course, lots of people can attain 14 mark in 14-mark questions. One big confusion in the student's mind is that you have that the length of the 14-mark questions matter. It does not matter. I have seen questions on one leaf who had got 14 out of 14. The content matters. And we have just told you how to get to a 14 marker. You have to divide your answers into levels. If you are achieving the levels in a very scientific way, they cannot deduct the marks, because the examiners are told that if the student or the candidate have written this answer in this way, you cannot deduct the mark. And if you're doing like that, if you're achieving the levels, level 3, 4, and 5, they cannot deduct the marks.
Ayan Sanaullah asks, what is the criteria for taking a supplementary sheet in history and writing on the additional sheet in geography?
Well, there is one additional sheet already given to you in the geography paper. You do not have to get that, and you might not be needing that as well. For a history, you might not be needing any extra sheet, but if you would want one, I think they can give you one.
How do you measure the distance in Pak Studies P2?
Well, you have to have a ruler with yourself, a scale, and a key is given to you 0 to 300. So you have to just measure 0 to 100 first. For example, that is 1 centimeter. Now put the scale onto, for example, they have asked you the distance between Karachi and Multan. So put a scale from Karachi to Multan diagonally, and for example, that was 6 centimeters. So it's obvious that 6 centimeters is equal to 600 kilometers. So the distance between Karachi to Multan would be 600 kilometers. So you have to do that by scale. And one thing, that whenever you are writing something with the pencil, you must have the rubber with yourself, but always uske upar dobara se likhe, because the papers are always scanned, and sometimes your pencils are not very good, or wo scanning ke andar nahi aayenge and you might lose marks. Some of my students have lost marks like this. So you need to do that. Usko gaada karne ki zarurat hai.
Samiullah asks how to attempt paper in minimum time but with full efficiency.
Which one, P1 or P2? So P2,
They didn't say
there is no time constraint. For P1, there is a time constraint. I've just told you that you have 25 to 30 minutes for question number 1. That is compulsory, which you'll be left with 60 more minutes. Whatever the marks of that question is, the formula is that you would be having those minutes. For example, a 4-mark question, you can do that in 4 minutes. 7-mark question, you can do that in 7 to 8 minutes, and that goes on.